Hi, welcome to Building Bridges Ministry. My name is Joe, and today's topic, seeing the new year is right around the corner, is change. I'm going to read Luke 8, 1 through 2, okay? Soon afterward, Jesus began a tour of the nearby towns and villages, preaching and announcing the good news about the kingdom of God. He took his 12 disciples with him, along with some women who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. Among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. Okay. I watched this program. It's called Chosen. I recommend it to anybody. It's a really good program. I like the idea that they give you kind of a little bit more background to the characters that are in the Bible. One of the shows dealt with Mary Magdalene, and I think it's a pretty neat part of the show, and it kind of fits this idea that I have today. There's not a lot of biblical exact things, but based on the show, we'll go with that for a little bit. She had these demons in her, and she tried to get cured by the Pharisees, and it just didn't work. But when Jesus approached her and had the interaction and approached her with love and understanding that she was battling something more than what she could handle, and he freed her of those demons, and that was the start of a change in her life, and it gave her an opportunity to see the world in a different light than what she was trapped in. So I think I've mentioned before that I work in a service business that I service fire suppression systems in restaurants and in gas canopies. Well, I was at this one job, and I was walking with the guy, and somehow or another we got discussing about people, and he says, people never change. And as I'm walking through, and I'm like, wow, that's a tough statement, but it's a common statement that a lot of people use, that people are who they are, they don't ever change. Well, if you dive into the New Testament mostly, you see that people can change. People can make better life choices. They can be encouraged to be making better life choices. The New Testament is blessed by having Jesus walking with his disciples and pretty much leading them by hand through these lives and creating the changes in these people's lives. So I would like to encourage those who feel like they're stuck in a rut, that they feel they can't change, or people who come in contact with others who they've lived that way for however many long years and they'll never change. It's not true. We change. We change in little increments. We make those decisions to change when we want to, or we are willing to make that change. I've had discussions with people before, about sharing Jesus and trying to convince people that Jesus is a good thing and what he presents is the way to be. But I also follow that statement up with, if they're not willing, they're not going to change. They're not going to accept that existence of Jesus or the way that he presents. So, and I also related with a person with an addiction. They're never going to get rid of that addiction until they are willing to step away from that addiction. I know in my life that in my early years with my wife, we had a lot of conflicts. We had a lot of agitations, but we didn't have God in our life. We didn't look to Jesus like we do now. And when we finally made, or we were willing to take that step towards Jesus, we were at a pretty low point in our life. But that process has really started a fire in myself, given us understandings of what we should be like and what we shouldn't be like. So that is initiating that change in our life to become better people, more understanding people, people that truly have love for each other and understand that we still have hiccups, we still have our stumbles, but what our new pair of glasses, like I've said before, our new Jesus glasses on, we can see that that's not the lifestyle we want to live. So that gives us our motivation for the change in our lives to change for the better. That story about how this lady, Mary Magdalene, she's walking around with all these demons, and people are just trying to stay away from her or look down on her. There's a lot of people in society that have that, and if we would take that moment and listen to them, and try to have it as much of a conversation as you can. Sometimes it's a hard conversation, but that moment in which you give them time isn't going to cure them all the time, but perhaps that moment will show that there is somebody that loves that person or is willing to listen to that person and give them time to motivate some form of change. One of the areas that really needs change is people in prison. People make life choices. They make life choices based on what their environment is, what they've known all their lives, and they don't know that there is something better. No one ever showed them that there's something better. And that's a shame. It really is a shame that no one has taken that step to whoever it is, and they end up in prison. So those who have gotten themselves into that spot, maybe step back for a half a second. Evaluate, what are you doing there? How did you get there? And that goes for anybody, really. You can look at your situation and say, boy, this is how it's always been. I don't know anything different. Look out. Look for somebody. Churches are great. Try to get to a church, and find the pastor. Tell them what you got going on. A good pastor is going to lead you to somebody is going to point you in a good direction, or sit down with you and have that conversation to show you that, just because you've been doing that for so many years, and that's how you've done it for years, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it needs to do. I know, me personally, I'm a very ritual guy, and I do have a little bit of trouble sometimes with change. But in previous relationships, I was a little more selfish and didn't give the time I should have. But when I got with my wife, and she had daughters, and I had other obligations, I made sure I did my best to try and go to her daughter's events and give my wife the time that she deserves. It was definitely it was a painful lesson that I had learned to get there, but I am grateful for that lesson, so that family is an important thing in life. To make sure you give that time to them is important. And I enjoy every ounce of time I get to spend with my wife, even if it's just sitting on our couch and we're both on our dabbing on our phones. I just enjoy having that time with my wife. I work a lot of hours, so I enjoy the time when I can. But, understanding and being willing to make the changes in the lives of yourself and those around us is an important part of this whole Jesus walk. Jesus came down on earth here and walked with 12 guys and many others and changed their lives forever. And their lives influence us in such a way. When we read this Bible, we read their stories, we read their accounts of what happened and how things went on at that time with him walking on this earth. It gives us that encouragement that you don't have to follow your parents. You don't have to go down the same road as your parents. I'm a stepfather, and I tried to be a parent like my mother was, but yelling and screaming doesn't always work as well as you want it to be. But when I did it, I had all the heart and love for the children, trying to give them a better life, trying to correct them in a better way. And my hope is that my daughters and their husbands can change some of that, you know what I mean, and give their children a better understanding of what's right, what's wrong, and do it in a more productive way. I know I've changed things in my life that I never thought I would do. At one time I was pretty dedicated to karate class, and I was very regimented to getting there. And once I got married and I had my stepdaughters and they started playing volleyball and softball, I was more upset with my work because I couldn't get back to see my kids, see the girls play their sports, than I was to make the karate class. And my priorities changed to where my family was more important to me than the karate class. And we got to be willing to make that step towards what is good in our lives and what is going to be an encouragement, what is going to be a positiveness in our lives. So just if you feel as though you're stuck somewhere and you don't think there's a way out, there is always a way to get out. You really need to confide in a good friend, a good solid friend who is there for good reasons. Or, go to a church, get to the pastor, and talk to them and ask them for help. There's good programs. Celebrate Recovery is a great program. Alcoholics Anonymous is a great program. For those who have those type of issues, get to them. Because if you stay on the same path that is tearing you up, destroying you, you may think you're happy at some points, but you're not. You're not taking care of what you need to take care of. So I ask this to you, seeing New Year's is coming and everybody's going to be making New Year's resolutions. and they're going to be wanting to change for weights and all this other stuff. Really focus on your surroundings. Where are you? Are you really happy on where you're at? If you're not, what do you got to do for your change? What is your step that you're going to take to improve your life, to give you a better life and a happier life? My suggestion is look at Jesus. Go to God. Really look up the Bible and read it. Make sure you get with somebody else who's willing to walk with you on that journey. I've been blessed to have a couple of really great guys who are walking alongside me as I take this journey, and very thankful